reject Zohran Mamdani's endorsement?
I'm not getting involved in any of the New York race. I'm just focused on New Jersey.
So as Democrats hit the campaign trail, they are facing an uncomfortable question: what to say, what to do about Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani. Republican New York Congressman Mike Lawler is asking Democrats to address the issue head on. He posted this: every single Democrat running for Congress needs to be put on the record. Do you stand with Jeffries, Hochul, and Mamdani, or with the hardworking New Yorkers who want safe streets, affordable communities, and sanity back in government? There's no hiding on this one. Fox News contributor Liz Peek joins me now. Liz, I always thought that, running for office involved courage. You got to have the courage of your convictions. And we didn't hear anything there from Mikey Sherrill when asked whether she supports Zohran Mamdani. I mean, he's...
This isn't really related, but I just find it funny that he's talking about, you got to have courage of your conviction. And maybe that is true. And I think that there's a lot more of that going on nowadays with people having, sticking to their guns about, what they actually believe and stuff, at least some candidates. But when he talks about that, all I can think about is this. It's like, this guy, what was it, Boss Hogg or whatever from Dukes of Hazzard. This is my idea growing up of what a politician is. Like, they just, whatever needs to be done to get the vote, that's what they do. They don't have courage. They don't have conviction. They just do whatever is necessary.
He's just across the river in New York.
Right. She'd rather talk about Donald Trump. It's kind of an amazing decision for her. But look, I think Democrats across the country are looking at this race and are horrified. John, only about 15% of the country identifies as very liberal or progressive.
I'm not sure she's right on that one. I think when I looked it up, 9 to 15% identify as very liberal, as she's saying. But the thing that I think is being left out of that comment is, what was the question that was asked? Were you asked if you were very liberal, or were you asked if you have certain sympathies? And if they ask if they're sympathetic to socialism, for instance, which I think we would agree is very left, 39%. 39%. And 66% of that 39, or of that overall group, was Democrat. So this is why I think you're seeing the left as a whole afraid to condemn some of the statements, past statements, or actions of some of these left-leaning candidates, these socialist candidates, is because they see this trend. It's moving that direction, and they're afraid that if they don't get on board with these people, they're going to be left behind. And it's all about power. There's not a whole lot of difference, I guess, between some of the Democrats of old and the socialist, communist types. They're all about power. Either way, it's just the degree to which they want to have, complete and utter control over you, I guess. There might be a slight difference there, but it's a little bit scary. But I don't know that the numbers have shifted enough yet that, like she's saying, it's a problem for the Democrats to win in the general elections if they're going to go with these far, far left candidates. And that may be for now, we'll see.
A lot of those people are in New York, they're in California, but guess what? They're not in New Jersey, and they're not across the middle of the country. And those are the places where Democrats have to hope to take back some seats if they want to get the majority in the House again. Mamdani is a loser for Democrats. And we're just talking now about campaigning. Wait till he's in office. Wait till some of this stuff that he's trying to do is actually put in motion. I can't imagine a worse look for Democrats. And by the way, one of the things that Hakeem Jeffries' endorsement kind of brings to the front right now is, how can you have both the leaders of your party from New York? You have Chuck Schumer, who's the Senate Minority Leader, and Hakeem Jeffries, who's the House Minority Leader. And that's not really a great look because it kind of says to the country, all we care about is the liberal left. And now they really know that's true because the biggest city in the world, the most important city, is going to have a socialist mayor that all of these people, Chuck Schumer has not yet endorsed him, but Hakeem Jeffries has, and most of the New York officials have. I think it's an incredible fiasco for the Democrats.
Yeah, it's a tepid endorsement, you could say, from Hakeem Jeffries, but
Yeah, it's tepid because they don't want to do it. They don't actually believe in what these people believe in. But like I said, they're afraid of getting left behind. And they don't want to lose their job, right? That's the problem with a politician whose only job has ever been to be a politician, like Joe Biden. Dude never did anything in his whole life except be a politician. And when you have a politician whose only use in the history of their life has been to be a politician, they're afraid of losing that, you know?
he did finally come out and endorse him. We're looking live at him on screen right now, Zoran Mamdani, and there are people behind him with build affordable housing banners. Is that part of his appeal? He says he's going to somehow make housing affordable in this very expensive city?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think he latched onto a very saleable idea in his campaign, which was he wants affordability to be his big issue. But the problem is all his ideas about how to make life affordable are completely wrong. In housing in particular, and everybody knows that renting an apartment in New York or buying one is incredibly expensive. But his idea of capping rents, basically freezing rents, all you do is drive capital out of housing. John, no one's going to build a new building if they can't make money doing so. No one's going to take over and refurbish apartments if their rents are capped and they're not allowed to make money doing so. This is an idea that's as old as time. It has never worked. And Mamdani is he's basically a con man, and he's trying to con young people into thinking this is the answer. Guess what? It is not.
Yeah, she's right. 100%. 100% correct on this. You know, I don't know when things changed where parents apparently stopped teaching their children that, you know, life ain't fair. Life is not fair. Never has been, never will be. If you put somebody like this in power, or a bunch of people like this in power, they won't make it fair for you. It's not going to work. Life will always be unfair. It's unfair to you that, you know, you don't get to be 6'10" and dunk basketballs. That's not fair. It's just life. It's just life that there will always be unfairness. But that doesn't mean that you throw out the baby with the bathwater, as they say, right? Like, there are flaws in capitalism. There are flaws in our system, definitely. But you don't just get rid of the system and try freaking socialism for no reason like that. We already know it fails. We already know it doesn't work. But young people don't know that, apparently. They didn't grow up in the, you know, at the end of the Cold War or in the heart of it, and they're not from these countries where you had to suffer. You had to suffer your whole life, and then you come to America and you see how wonderful it is for you, and you love and embrace it. No, they were taught by their teachers that, you know, this is a good idea in theory, but it's not a good idea in theory. If it was a good idea in theory, it would have worked somewhere, but it never worked anywhere. It can't hold up on its own. It doesn't work. We need to stop pretending like this is a good idea. And I don't even think that the people who advocate for this, like the politicians who advocate for it, like this guy in particular, he doesn't believe this is a good idea. He knows it will fail. You know, a cynical view would say that they know it's a bad idea and they want to do it anyway. Why would they want to do it anyway? They want to break the system. They want to reimagine America in their mind, the way that they want it to look, the way that they want it to act. And so it's a very dangerous ideology to have injected into our politics. I wish it wasn't the case that he was going to be the mayor, but it's certainly looking that way. And, you know, the best we can hope for is that He's just so inept because he's never had a job in his life that he can't implement the things at scale that can really, have a huge impact on us. I will say that, to go back to capitalism and, the frustrations some of the youth might have with it, I'm not saying it's perfect at all. One area in which I think could definitely use some reform is and I think this applies to some of the criticisms that people might have, and the unfairness that they might feel. But let's say that you go to sue, you have something bad happen to you, and you go to sue for medical bills or whatever, or pain and suffering. I don't know. And some big company, they have unlimited budget that they can use to lock you up in court for ever. They could just get continuations over and over, and then you can't afford your legal bills. So you lose, even if it was a case that you would have won, you lose. That needs reform, right? I think that we can all agree that seems un-American. That seems unfair. So there's definitely areas where the system needs improvement, but unfortunately it takes time. And the framers of the Constitution, the people who started this country, they had seen some of these chaotic forms of government take root in Europe and throughout history. And they knew that if you're allowed to change things overnight, that it really disrupts any cohesion you might have with your community and with your government. And so that's why our system is set up intentionally to take a long time, to go through a lot of procedures to be able to affect massive change. Now, I don't know if she already spoke on it, but she was talking about cutting through red tape to build housing as a way to make housing more affordable in New York or whatever. But that's on a smaller scale than what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about stuff like that. I mean, if you take the entire government and just flip it over on its head, it's going to be complete chaos, and there's going to be a lot of unhappy people on one side or the other, right? That's why the framers of the Constitution made it to where there's checks and balances. You have to make a bill. You have to in order to make an amendment. I mean, it's impossible, right? These things are intentionally difficult to do.
The answer to affordable housing in New York, as it is everywhere, get rid of the regulations, make it easier to build. New York is actually literally the slowest and most expensive place to construct apartments on earth, probably 3 times as much as Texas, for example. And that's because of policies, Democrat policies put in place by people like Mamdani, who were his predecessors, not just in City Hall, but also in the city council, which is as left-leaning as Mamdani and equally, dangerous to people trying to live in New York.
What about free buses? He says he wants to make the buses free.
Yeah, and the next thing that happens is that every homeless person is going to climb aboard a bus and basically refuse to get off. So that's not going to work out terribly well. But look, another aspect of affordability is taxes, right? So he wants to raise taxes not just on the wealthy, and as we have seen over and over again with this kind of politics, it spreads from the very wealthy to the moderately wealthy, and then pretty soon it's pretty much everybody, but also on corporations. So basically, does he not understand that corporations pass higher taxes along to people and to the residents and to their customers? Of course, and so it's a vicious circle. And he basically wants to get on and drive affordability and the economics of this city downward. And that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, so far he hasn't run anything. Let's see if he can run the nation's largest city. We'll see. Liz Peek. Liz, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, she's 100% correct on this. The bus thing, I don't know about that. I don't know if you're going to have homeless people get on the buses and never leave, because from what I have been told, the buses in New York City are pretty cheap anyway. I mean, it's not expensive. So his whole thing about making buses free is kind of a silly deal anyway. It's like you pick something that's already like affordable and make it free. I don't know. But yeah, to go back to the larger point that I was trying to make about young people, being sympathetic to actors like this, I think that we have done a poor job in extolling the virtues of capitalism. And I think that the news is complicit in that because the news is constantly talking about all of the bad stuff that happens, all the bad stuff. Well, in politics, in history, in legal system, all this stuff, you just hear more and more and more bad news. And so it makes you think that the whole system is completely broken. But it's not. It just needs, if you have certain things that you want to fight for with your vote, that's what you have to do. You just have to understand how the system works and how you can make it better. And if you've got some grand new idea of how to run a economy and run a government that has never been tried before, by all means put that forth. But socialism and communism and all, that is not it. That ain't gonna cut it. That stuff is just a cancer on society, and a lot of people have died and suffered because of those ideas, more so than even in wars, which is crazy to think about. But I implore you not to vote for these kind of people. Looks like he's going to win, but any others that come up or wherever you live, don't vote for him. Don't fall prey to this kind of thinking, because you don't want to make yourself a victim, but you also don't want to spread this kind of thought mechanism, which will lead to tyranny ultimately. Tyranny, death, destruction, and chaos. That's what it is. And so these are my thoughts on this. Thank you for watching. I hope you got something out of this. And if you feel so compelled, please like and subscribe. Have a good day.